All right, time now for the markets with Leighton, and we have some news that's helping support cotton prices.
That's right. Apparently, cotton traders are not quite so intimidated now by China's big stockpile of cotton. We'll explain that in a moment. Also ahead this week, corn prices hit 3-month highs. Analysts think the feeder cattle supply is going to be rather short, while hog production is getting a little larger according to the latest Hogs and Pigs report. The monthly numbers from the USDA 1 week ago were a market mover as far as the grain sector. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley has been looking over the information about corn and soybeans. He gave me some analysis of those particular sectors midday on Thursday. So John Michael, what were your initial reactions to those new reports?
Well, especially with corn, the first thing that comes to mind is bullish, just given the fact that ending stocks were lower than expected. You go to the grain stocks report, which is an inventory number from December 1st, and it was lower than expected. So overall, in terms of the news for corn, definitely bullish. We saw the market react accordingly and has been up since the release of the report. For soybeans, fairly neutral. You know, there were a few bullish aspects, there were a few bearish aspects in the report, in those two reports. But for the most part, if you look at where soybean prices on the futures market have been since the report release, it looks like it's really riding the coattails of corn and wheat, because those two have been higher and soybeans just kind of getting pulled up with it, even though the report was mostly wishy-washy in terms of what the numbers were reported.
So as far as corn and down the road here as we approach planting season, are we expecting the prices to keep this uptrend, or at least? Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if that, I don't know if so much an uptrend that this news has been absorbed. I think, you know, depending on what comes out of Brazil and Argentina moving forward, what we see in terms of exports, the corn export number was dropped quite a bit. We've seen that in the weekly reports. I think that was pretty much expected, but it really depends on if we can continue to get some sales at these trending higher prices. Right now, the soybean to corn ratio, which is a good indicator of how these crops might play out in terms of acres, is really favoring corn. So we'll see if soybeans try to buy back some acres as we move closer to planting time.
And as far as soybeans, that sales picture, exports, China is still in the picture there, right?
That's right. Exports for soybeans were steady and have been moving pretty decent for the past couple of weeks. Corn was the one that really took the hit there.
Early in this week, buyers reportedly rejected cotton from China's state auctions over some concerns about that fiber's quality and price. Jack Scoville of Futures magazine says this development turned futures higher. He thinks the implication long-term is that demand for cotton will remain strong as the threat of China selling off its government stockpile becomes somewhat less intimidating to the market. And analyst Alan Brugler says China will be more likely now to continue importing some cotton despite their own import fees and taxes on the fiber. Our trivia quiz this week deals with the 2012 crop production in the state of Mississippi. Here's the question. Mississippi peanuts and soybeans each recorded record yields in 2012. What other crop grown in the state also had record yields last year? Is the answer cotton, or grain sorghum, or corn, or sweet potatoes? You'll find out more here in a few minutes. We move into the livestock markets now, and the story since those new USDA reports January 11th is, as the graphic over my shoulder says, all about corn. Analyst Don Roos says that in the beef sector, corn may pressure feeder prices if dry weather issues remain a factor in many areas of the country later this year.
All of this livestock market is about the grain market, even the cattle market, but feeders, same thing. And the feeder cattle supply, no doubt, is going to be short, but it's up to the corn market. If the corn market would happen to move up sharply on some dry weather concerns, because we're still very tight supplies, you know, the feeder market will come under pressure. But I think as we move forward, and if we can alleviate the tight situation on old crop corn, get to our in-between months, September and into new crop, you know, the feeder cattle market probably is going to find some strength again. So, you know, the feeder cattle market struggled down around 140, 145 on high-priced grain. It probably could go back up to 160, 65.
Meanwhile, in the hog sector, there are new indications the nation's pork supply is a little bigger these days. Analyst Alan Brugler says the export picture will be what dictates whether pork products are an alternative to beef at the meat counter for price-conscious consumers.
As we know from the Hogs and Pigs report, pork production is actually a little larger than we had originally thought it might be. Got some upward revisions to the summer numbers, and farrowing intentions were a little larger for the Dec-Jan-Feb period. So I think we do have a little bit more pork supply there. So yeah, probably we get a little more domestic consumption. But the real story in pork is exports. You know, if we're exporting 22, 23, 24% of our production, that has a major impact on what the consumer price will be and how much is available for the consumer.
The covering of snow across parts of Mississippi late this week might give you the impression there's been plenty of that white stuff all over the country this season. Actually, just the opposite is true. Some specialists are calling it a snow drought. In fact, only 22% of the United States was covered by snow as of last week. That is the smallest percentage in 6 years for this time of year. Scientists are concerned it implies additional drought-like conditions for some regions of the United States as this year progresses. Before this week's feature story, the trivia answer is next. And C is the correct choice. Corn joined peanuts and soybeans in setting record yields in Mississippi in 2012.